Lucas had always been a fighter. At just 16, he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, working odd jobs to support his sick mother and keep their modest home running. Life hadn't been kind to him. His father had left when he was young, and their small neighborhood was riddled with poverty. But Lucas refused to give up. He believed that hard work and determination could get him through anything. One sunny afternoon, as Lucas delivered groceries for a local shop, he heard screams coming from across the street. His heart raced as he turned to see what was happening. There, in the middle of the bustling road, a toddler had wandered away from his caregiver and climbed into an unattended trolley used to transport goods. Before anyone could react, the trolley began rolling downhill, picking up speed as it headed straight toward heavy traffic. Panic spread among the bystanders. Cars honked wildly, swerving to avoid the runaway trolley, while others froze in shock, unsure what to do. But Lucas didn't hesitate. Dropping the bag of groceries he was carrying, he sprinted toward the trolley, dodging cars and leaping over obstacles in his path. "Stay back!" someone shouted, but Lucas ignored them. He reached the trolley just as it veered dangerously close to a speeding truck. With every ounce of strength he had, Lucas grabbed hold of the handle and yanked it sideways, steering the trolley off the main road and onto a safer patch of grass. The toddler inside cried loudly, shaken but unharmed. Breathing heavily, Lucas scooped the child into his arms and carried him to safety. Only then did he notice the pain shooting through his leg. He'd twisted it badly during the rescue. Still, he pushed the discomfort aside, focusing instead on calming the frightened toddler. Moments later, a frantic man rushed to the scene, tears streaming down his face. "Is he okay? Is my son all right?" "He's fine," Lucas assured him, handing the boy over. "Just scared." The man hugged his son tightly, relief washing over him. "Thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "You saved his life." Lucas nodded, wincing as he tried to stand. "I'm just glad I got here in time." What Lucas didn't realize was that the man wasn't just any father. He was Victor Langston, a millionaire entrepreneur whose name was known across the country. And Victor wouldn't soon forget the poor boy who risked everything to save his child. Little did Lucas know, his simple act of bravery would set off a chain reaction that would change not only his life but also the lives of those around him. Later that evening, Victor Langston sat in his luxurious penthouse, still shaken by the day's events. His mind replayed the terrifying image of his son tumbling downhill in that runaway trolley, and the sight of a young boy risking his life to save him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lucas's face, determined, brave, and selfless. Who was he? Victor muttered aloud, pacing the room. "I need to find him." His wife, Claire, watched him with concern. "You've already thanked him at the scene. Isn't that enough?" Victor shook his head firmly. "No, it's not. He didn't just save our son's life, he risked his own. We owe him more than words." The next morning, Victor used his resources to track down witnesses from the chaotic rescue. It didn't take long for investigators to piece together details about the boy. They learned his name was Lucas Rivera, a teenager who worked odd jobs to support his sick mother. Neighbors described him as hardworking, kind, and always willing to help others despite his own struggles. Determined to express their gratitude, Victor and Claire visited the neighborhood where the incident occurred. They spoke with local shopkeepers and residents, showing them a photo of Lucas taken during the rescue. Finally, one elderly woman recognized him. "He lives in that small house near the corner," she said, pointing down the street. "But be careful. His mother is very ill and they don't have much." That afternoon, Victor and Claire arrived at Lucas's modest home. The front yard was overgrown, and the paint on the walls was peeling. Still, the place had a sense of warmth with potted plants lining the porch. Before they could knock, the door creaked open, revealing Lucas leaning on a pair of crutches. "Mr. Langston?" Lucas asked, surprised to see the wealthy entrepreneur standing on his doorstep. "What are you doing here?" "I came to thank you for saving my son," Victor replied, stepping closer. "And to see how you're doing." Lucas shrugged, trying to play down his injuries. "I'm fine. Just a twisted leg. Nothing serious. Claire stepped forward, her eyes filled with emotion. Nothing serious? You could have been killed, Lucas. What you did. It was incredibly brave. Lucas shifted uncomfortably, avoiding their gaze. I didn't think about it. I just acted. Anyone would have done the same. No, Victor countered firmly. Not everyone would have risked their life like you did. You're a hero, Lucas. Lucas looked away, clearly uneasy with the praise. I'm not a hero. I just saw someone in trouble and helped. Victor studied him for a moment, impressed by his humility. We want to repay you for your bravery. Name anything you want, and it's ours to give. Lucas hesitated, unsure how to respond. A million thoughts raced through his mind. Money for his mother's medical bills, food, or even a chance to finish school. But none of those felt right. Instead, he thought of something bigger. I don't need anything for myself, Lucas said quietly. But if you really want to help, my mom needs medicine, and I can't afford it. She's been sick for years, and without treatment. His voice trailed off, heavy with worry. Victor placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Consider it done. We'll take care of everything. Your mom's medication, doctor visits, all of it. Tears welled up in Lucas's eyes as relief washed over him. For years, he'd carried the weight of his family's struggles alone. Now, for the first time, he allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Little did Lucas know, this was only the beginning of the changes Victor and Claire planned to bring into his life. Over the next few weeks, Victor and Claire wasted no time ensuring Lucas and his mother received the care they needed. They arranged for a team of doctors to visit their home, providing medication and treatment plans for Lucas's mom, Maria. For the first time in years, her health began improving, and the weight of constant worry lifted slightly from Lucas's shoulders. But Lucas's injuries weren't as minor as he'd initially thought. The twisted leg turned out to be a hairline fracture, requiring weeks of rest and physical therapy. Unable to work or deliver groceries, Lucas struggled with feelings of helplessness. Medical bills piled up despite Victor covering most expenses, and whispers of skepticism spread through the neighborhood. Why's that rich guy helping him? One neighbor muttered loud enough for Lucas to hear. He probably asked for money or something. Lucas clenched his fists but said nothing. He didn't owe anyone an explanation. Not when he'd acted out of instinct, not for fame or reward. Still, the doubt gnawed at him. Was accepting Victor's help making him look weak? Or worse, selfish? One evening, as Lucas sat on the porch watching the sunset, Victor arrived unexpectedly. How are you holding up? Victor asked gently, taking a seat beside him. Lucas sighed, leaning back against the railing. I'm okay. My mom's getting better, so that's good. But I hate feeling like I can't take care of us anymore. Victor nodded, understanding the pride behind his words. It's hard to accept help, especially when you're used to doing everything yourself. But let me ask you something. Why do you think I'm doing this? Lucas hesitated. Because I saved your son. Yes, Victor agreed. But it's more than that. You reminded me what true courage looks like. Most people would have frozen in that moment. You ran toward danger without thinking twice. That kind of bravery deserves recognition, Lucas. Let me help you rebuild your life. Lucas looked away, tears brimming in his eyes. I don't know how to repay you. You already have, Victor replied firmly, by saving my boy. Now, let me return the favor. With those words, Victor revealed his broader plan. Not just medical care for Maria, but funding for Lucas's education and future stability. I want to send you to school, Victor explained. Finish high school, then go to college if you want. I'll cover everything. Tuition, books, whatever you need. Lucas stared at him, stunned. Why would you do all this for me? Because you deserve it, Victor said simply. And because your actions inspired me to make a difference. Not just for you, but for others like you. For the first time since the accident, Lucas allowed himself to dream again. This wasn't just about survival. It was about building a new life, one where he could rise above the struggles that had defined him for so long. The days following Victor's offer were a whirlwind of emotions for Lucas. He wrestled with the decision, torn between gratitude and fear of judgment. Accepting such generosity felt monumental, a lifeline he hadn't dared to hope for, but it also came with pressure. What if he failed? What if people thought he was taking advantage of Victor's wealth? One afternoon, as Lucas sat in his room staring at the stack of enrollment forms Victor had brought him, Maria knocked softly on the door. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. Lucas nodded, setting the papers aside. "Yeah, sure." Maria entered, her frail frame steadier than it had been in years thanks to the medical care she'd received. She sat beside him, placing a hand on his knee. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Lucas hesitated, unsure how to put his thoughts into words. "I don't know if I should accept Mr. Langston's help, Mom. Feels too much. Like I don't deserve it." Maria sighed, her eyes filling with pride. "Lucas, you've spent your whole life sacrificing for me. For us. You've worked tirelessly, given up everything, just to keep us afloat. If anyone deserves a second chance, it's you. But what will people say?" Lucas countered, his voice tinged with frustration. "They'll think I'm using him or trying to climb above my station." Maria shook her head firmly. "Let them talk. Those who matter will see the truth, that you earned this opportunity through your courage and kindness. Don't let fear hold you back from changing our lives for the better." Her words struck a chord deep within Lucas. She was right. He couldn't let the opinions of others dictate his future. This wasn't about climbing social ladders. It was about creating a better tomorrow for both of them. The next day, Lucas met with Victor and Claire at their home. Sitting across from them in their elegant living room, he took a deep breath before speaking. "I've made my decision," he said, his voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside him. "I'll accept your help with one condition." Victor raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And what's that?" "That I pay it forward someday," Lucas replied earnestly. "When I'm able, I want to use what you've given me to help others like me, people who feel trapped by their circumstances. That's how we make this count." Victor smiled, visibly moved by Lucas's resolve. "That's exactly the kind of mindset that makes you special, Lucas. Consider it a deal." With that, they finalized the plans. Lucas would enroll in school immediately, starting with online classes to accommodate his recovery. Victor arranged for tutoring sessions and mentorship programs to ensure Lucas stayed on track academically. Meanwhile, Claire worked closely with Maria, ensuring she continued receiving top-notch medical care without worrying about expenses. As weeks turned into months, Lucas threw himself into his studies, determined to prove that Victor's faith in him wasn't misplaced. He balanced coursework with physical therapy, slowly regaining strength in his injured leg. Though challenging, every step forward filled him with renewed purpose. For the first time in years, Lucas allowed himself to envision a brighter future, one where he could break free from the cycle of poverty and build a life defined not by struggle, but by success and service. Little did he know, this transformation would inspire far more than just his own journey. It would spark a movement aimed at uplifting countless others facing similar battles. As months passed, Lucas's life transformed in ways he never imagined. With Victor and Claire's support, he excelled in his classes, earning top grades and impressing his teachers with his determination. Maria's health continued to improve, allowing her to spend more time nurturing their small garden, a symbol of hope and renewal for their family. But Lucas wasn't content to simply receive kindness. He wanted to give back. Inspired by Victor's generosity, he began volunteering at a local community center, mentoring children from struggling families. He shared his story openly, encouraging them to believe in second chances and reminding them they weren't alone. "You've got this," he'd say during group sessions, his voice steady but filled with compassion. "It's not easy, but you're stronger than you think." His words resonated deeply with the kids, many of whom saw him as a role model. One boy, Mateo, clung to Lucas's advice like a lifeline, eventually enrolling in a trade school thanks to his encouragement. Meanwhile, Victor and Claire stayed involved, ensuring Lucas and Maria had everything they needed to thrive. But their involvement didn't stop there. Moved by Lucas's dedication to helping others, they decided to establish a foundation aimed at assisting struggling families, naming it Courage to Rise, inspired by Lucas's journey. "We want to help families like yours find stability," Victor explained when he told Lucas about the foundation. "Your bravery reminded us what's possible when people are given a chance." Lucas was overwhelmed by their gesture but also determined to contribute. He joined the foundation's board, using his experiences to guide its mission. Together, they launched programs offering scholarships, job training, and mentorship opportunities for teens transitioning out of poverty. The impact was immediate. Donations poured in from across the country, and stories of transformation began emerging. Families finding jobs, finishing school, and rebuilding lives shattered by hardship. Lucas became the face of the movement, speaking publicly about overcoming adversity and the importance of compassion. "You saved my son," Victor said during one event, addressing the crowd. "But more importantly, you reminded us all what true courage looks like. Courage to rise exists because of you, Lucas." Lucas stood beside him, humbled by the applause. "I didn't do this alone," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "None of us can succeed without help, and I'm grateful for everyone who's been part of my journey." Through it all, Lucas remained grounded, never forgetting where he came from. He visited the community center regularly, checking in on Mateo and other kids he'd mentored. And every weekend, he spent time with Maria, cherishing the bond they'd worked so hard to preserve. Victor and Claire watched proudly as Lucas embraced his new role, not just as a survivor but as a leader. They knew their lives had changed forever the day Lucas saved their son, but they hadn't anticipated how much he would inspire them to see the world differently. Together, they proved that kindness wasn't a one-way street. It was a cycle that created ripples far beyond what anyone could predict. Years later, Lucas stood on a stage in front of thousands of people at the annual Courage to Rise Gala. The event celebrated the foundation's success, how it had transformed lives across the country and inspired similar initiatives worldwide. As he looked out at the cheering crowd, Lucas felt a deep sense of pride. What had started as a simple act of bravery on a chaotic street corner had grown into something far greater than he ever imagined. Victor and Claire sat in the front row, smiling warmly as they watched him deliver his speech. "When I stepped in front of that trolley years ago," Lucas began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I didn't think about changing my life or anyone else's. I just thought about doing the right thing. But what happened next taught me an important lesson. Kindness matters. Courage matters. And no matter how small your actions may seem, they can spark a chain reaction of positive change." The audience erupted into applause, many wiping away tears. For Lucas, this moment wasn't about recognition. It was about reminding everyone present that they, too, had the power to make a difference. After the ceremony, Victor approached him with a proud grin. "You've changed lives, Lucas," he said softly. "Not just yours, but countless others. This movement belongs to you as much as it does to us." Lucas shook his head, humbled. "No, Victor. None of this would have been possible without you and Claire. You believed in me when no one else did, including myself." Their partnership had become more than gratitude. It was proof that even the most unlikely connections could transform lives, including their own. In the years that followed, Lucas continued advocating for struggling families, traveling across the country to share his story and inspire change. He became a spokesperson for education access and community support, reminding audiences that courage isn't always loud or flashy. It's often quiet and selfless, like running toward danger to save a stranger. Victor and Claire remained by his side, using their resources to champion policies that uplifted overlooked groups. Together, they turned Courage to Rise into a nationwide initiative, ensuring that no family would ever feel invisible again. Through it all, Lucas never forgot the lesson he'd learned that fateful day. One act of kindness could spark a chain reaction of positive change. His simple decision to help someone in need had not only saved lives but also ignited a movement that touched thousands. One evening, As Lucas walked home under the same stars that had witnessed his struggles years ago, he reflected on how far he'd come. His journey hadn't been easy, but every challenge had shaped him into the person he was today. And through it all, he'd learned one undeniable truth. Kindness always finds its way back to you. As he hugged Maria goodbye before heading to another speaking engagement, Lucas realized something profound. His legacy wasn't just about what he'd done. It was about inspiring others to do the same. And so, the ripple of compassion continued, spreading outward and touching hearts across generations. One selfless act had sparked a legacy, one that would endure long after Lucas, Victor, and Claire were gone. If this story inspired you, don't forget to share it with friends and family. Let us know in the comments. What's the bravest thing you've ever done? Your stories inspire us to keep creating tales that matter.